Hey people, this is the Broken Puppet, back with another video for today, and welcome to my new shop, Brokenpuppet Tattoo. All the details will be in the description about that. So today I'm teaching you how to draw a chrysanthemum. Now it's the oriental style, so Japanese, Chinese style. I know a lot of people tend to struggle with this, I get a lot of messages, but once you know the basic formula, they're actually really quite simple and easy to do. And so I teach you the line work, I teach you the basic shading and all the structure and everything, so yeah, sure you're going to love it. Check out my other videos, subscribe, like, yada yada yada. You guys know the routine, and I'll see you next time. Right people, how to draw a chrysanthemum. Now this is like the sort of Japanese and Chinese kind of style. So real quite simple. Let's get your nice little circle in the middle. And then you just want to do oval shapes, not quite, just over halfway. Now you can do them as thin or as thick as you want, depending on how many kind of petals you want. Just keep doing them up around the edge, slightly overlapping, just like that, and then just the top parts going across the top bit of the circle. Once you've done that, just do slightly bigger ones just below. And the more you go out, the more circular you want them. So see, this bit will be a lot more circular than this. Now at the moment it just looks like a bunch of circles, but trust me, it's just a really simple way of learning the structure of how to do each leaf. Just all the way around. Now you can do a third set, but I won't worry too much about them at the moment. Just fill them in a bit bigger on the outside. Now the trick here, a lot of people get confused because obviously when you overlap, they don't know how to quite carry on this leaf to this petal, this petal to this petal. So your best bet is starting off right, with the centre ones, but only do halfway to begin with. So we'll see with the circular line, stop just before you get to that one. So you want to bring the curve around here. When you get to the point, this style, I'm going to bring to a flick. So you see curve to a flick at the edge. Then you want to do the same thing, coming down like that. And now you want to keep doing the same thing going around, but as you go around you want to curve it. So see, this bit curves more inwards. And then I'm going to bring this circular shape around the edge, like that. Then here, bring it even more. Curve that there. And then when you get to the one where you go past halfway, you come back, you flick it up, and then you want to bring another line coming up to the edge, just like that. Similar to how you do the petal on like a old school rose, and then you curve down. And what that does, that just shows the rotation as it twists. Now you've done that, you want to go to this next set. Now you're going to do the same principle. Go up. You don't have to have these parallel, you can have these at an angle, uneven, as close or as far as you want. Now the first one's going to be very similar to that. And now this one here, I'm going to start from this line just on the edge here. I'm going to curve around that circular shape, come to that little flicky point. But this is what I'm going to do now, I'm going to curve this bit out, and once I do this, I'm going to curve into a point, you see? And then I'm going to make another little semicircle shape, just like that, and then curving up. And I've done that, I can draw in the rest of these lines. Just finishing off the edge towards these bits. Don't forget the little lines that are just there, for this one, it will come around there. And then imagine the line coming in from this side and curving like, across and through there. See that line? And that is just like the inside bit of this petal. And it's the same principle going the whole way around, as you get further around obviously it twists, so I'll show you how it twists. See this one I'm going to curve around and I'm going to come down a bit to a point like that. Look at that, just a touch. The same principle, I'm going to bring it back out to a point, semicircle, semicircle, and then imagine the line coming around through the inside, curve there. If you have trouble, imagining that line, just kind of sketch from this point here, like that, just come across, so you want to cut through the design itself. yeah, you just basically just keep repeating this. See, it's just that kind of curve across to a point, curve back, semicircle, semicircle. The rest pretty much takes care of itself, to be honest. You know, it's a very much a repeating pattern. So curve that, curve around, curve up, curve in. And the actual centerpiece, you know, is really up to you. There's loads of different ways you can do it. You can just do like loads of, you know, sort of dots and points. You could do sort of circular, well, you know, kind of long kind of motions, kind of like, you know, like that, and just repeat that, loads of them. You could do like the kind of lotus center, you know, really just customize the center how you want it to look. You know, I'm gonna do it with a thinner pen this time. Just make long kind of worm shapes, going in all kinds of directions, all kind of sizes. The only rules you want, I'm going to overlap them once we get towards the centre, and I want the centre to come up higher, as you'll see in 2 seconds. So now that I've done the first line, I'm going to bring in the second line. I'm going to make these ones go higher as they get towards this middle section. Now this is, like I said, this is just one style you can do. You just play around with different kind of patterns and ideas for this bit. Now get a bit of tracing paper, put it over the top, and then just sketch in as many different styles as you want to. You see the one you like, and then actually put that on the paper. Now, one detail I like to do, it's a thinner line, just going up the centre of each one of these petals, just curving up to that point. Now you kind of have to imagine where the centre is and the curve, like here, you see the curve comes around the back of that one? You know, this is a bit difficult for some people, you know, trying to judge sometimes. But once you get it down, you know, a bit of practice, you'll be doing it easy. It's just one of those things, once you've done it once, you'll have it down. So I'm just going to sketch in the rest of some of these. Now obviously with those two, like they just sort of just kind of shape up like that. A little line down the side. You can have it so you get like another one in the middle if you want. You know, I generally like to finish off with like, you know, one in the centre, one at the centre at the top. And I tend to do roughly about 3 waves of these. By waves I mean you got the centre ones, the second set, and then the third set. Now you can do as many as you want, depends on how kind of complex and how packed out you want it. You know, kind of play around with different kind of numbers. I'm sure you'll be drawing loads of these now, you sort of know the basic structure. You know, so they do look really good, and a lot of people do struggle with them to begin with, but once you get that basic kind of knowledge down, they're just a perfect thing. You can add them to any kind of oriental design, you know, any kind of subject matter, and to be honest, they work. You know, dragons, samurais, geishas, tigers, snakes. You know, there's pretty much next to nothing a chrysanthemum won't work with. Now what I will do is I'll show you here, you can do kind of like what I call a back turn, where one will kind of change the shape. So I'm going to bring a line here, I'll start with a pencil so you can see. You know, as we normally would curve it like this, I'm going to curve out, and then I'm going to curve back, and I'm going to curve back on myself. So you can make it kind of like an S shape. See, like that? And then we're going to curve back, semicircle, semicircle, all the way back. And then from there, we're going to draw a bigger line at the top, and come back with it. Now that just shows like an overturn, where the leaf is turned the other way. You know, if you don't like it, you don't have to add it. You know, it's just one of those options you can do. You know, I tend to play around between having them turn over this way and turn over the other way. You know, depending on the design I'm putting them with. And I like to make mine get bigger the further they go out. You keep them all the same size if you want to, like, you ain't got to increase the size. I just think they generally look cool as they increase in size. Plus, if you're going crazy with detail, it gives you more room to add. Just so there's another overturn. Yeah. Now I've done that, just going to grab a pen, just put a little detail line, go to the centre of them all. Don't forget, you do this, people, always send me pictures to my Facebook or send me links. You know, I love seeing what you guys do with my tutorials. You know, I've seen a lot of people in the past and you guys do some really good stuff out there. Really proud of you guys. And now I'm just going to put in some basic shadow bits. You know, this isn't necessary. I just tend to do this with most of my work. I try to find like the jet black bits where there's going to be like a clear, you know, shine ladder? A ladder, oh, losing my damn words here. Shadow line. That's the one. Basically what I mean by that is where, see this overlaps here? So it's going to be a clear kind of shadow bit. About it. I don't want too much of this because it just covers up a lot of the design. But I like some jet black shadows just throughout my artwork. Nothing too crazy. Rubber that pencil work. Colours are really down to you. You know, there's pretty much next to no colours that don't work with a chrysanthemum. You know, just play around with them. You know, have fun with the colours. You know, if you just want it black and white, keep it black and white. You know, the only rule I always say, try to get a different colour for the outside as what you do the inside. You know, it always works best if there's two different colours there. Right, now, where is my white pencil? Oh, look at that. Got my bloody white pencil. No worries, I'll just do some shadow instead. Now, white highlights are not always necessary, but they just make it more fun. I have a habit of taking my artwork and equipment home, and sometimes forgetting to bring it back to work. For this, I'm literally just bringing some shadow from the bottom. You can bring a little bit from the top if you want, so you get a bit of a kind of mid shine. No, you leave just like that kind of line through the middle bit, and that kind of give a nice, cool highlight. You probably see me do the same technique a lot of times, like hair and things. You know, it's just a nice little play on the eyes. You know, it's very appealing. So just keep flicking in the shadows. As much or as little as you want. Or if you're going for colour, you know, you don't necessarily have to have shadows. You can always use the colour. I mean, if you're using, let's say, yellow on the outside, you could use orange or brown for the shadows. You know, don't always feel like you have to use black. Yeah, it's a big mistake a lot of people make. Black's an extremely handy colour. You know, it makes some things look absolutely amazing, but it's not always needed for every art piece. Although I do tend to use it in most of my art, to be honest. But that's just my style. There you go, people. There's that little chrysanthemum. I'm putting a few little white highlights just in between those little shine bits and just down centres. Yeah. Put in this little centerpiece if you want, just to kind of brighten that out. Just make a little bit of a difference. Yeah, but there you go. That's how to draw a chrysanthemum. Now you can add leaves around the outside if you want, but I just tend to stick to the petals. You know, I just find it's better that way. Yeah, I hope that helps. I hope you liked it. You know, subscribe, like, comment, yada yada yada. You guys know the rule. Come visit my shop, and I'll see you next time. Peace out, people.